Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. I am your host, Michael Kravetz, and on a special edition today, recording the show on Monday instead of the normal Sunday, we're going to get into the Pittsburgh Panthers. And they were off for an entire week. Last Saturday, they had a huge win on the road at Cincinnati in a game in which I thought they weren't going to win. They ended up pulling out the 10-point victory. And on the heels of a huge game on Saturday at Marquette, both teams in the top 5 of the Big East, whoever won the game would have the upper hand in gaining one of the top 4 spots in the Big East tournament for the double bye, and they would still have a likely possibility of winning the Big East, and that would definitely improve your seeding for the NCAA tournament. And in this game, I knew it was going to be a close game. Both teams are good defensively, and I thought it was going to be a struggle. But as it turned out, this was kind of an offensive game. I was surprised, and it was not a good game for Pitt by any measurement. Started off with the first possession of the game. It was a turnover by Talib Zanna. And from that point on, the game was close early on in the first half. Marquette had a 18-16 lead with about 12 minutes remaining in the first half. Up to that point, it was a back-and-forth game. There weren't really that many runs. And Pitt just couldn't stop Vander Blue, who had a huge game against Pitt when the game was at the Peterson Event Center back in mid-January. And he started off shooting the ball really well. And the Pitt defense, the perimeter D especially, was just not good. Marquette was getting open shots, getting layups inside, hitting their open threes, and Pitt just could not match Marquette's shooting. And at the halftime, it was 42-29. Marquette had a 13-point lead. Obviously, the biggest halftime deficit Pitt faced up to this point. And in the second half, yes, Pitt shot the ball a lot better, but Marquette was still shooting good as well. And Pitt's defense, they just couldn't come up with any stops. And Marquette ended up beating Pitt by 10. It was the Panthers' worst loss of the season. Marquette just had a double-digit lead through most of the second half, and Pitt just couldn't find their way back. And the alarming thing in this game was that Trey Woodall, who had to leave the first game against Marquette because of a concussion, he had no points in the first half. His first points came in the second half at the 19-minute mark. He ended up finishing the game with 10 points, but still, he has to at least show up in the first half. If he shows up, gets points, Pitt stays in the game, makes it closer, and they have a chance to maybe pull off the win. But if he doesn't score, I know he's a point guard, and point guards normally don't score, but he's one of your leading scorers, and he has to score points early on for Pitt to be in any type of game. There were some positives. Lamar Patterson, 19 points, 5 rebounds, assists, and 2 steals. But like I said, that came when Pitt was down big. They were just trying to claw their way back. Patterson was hitting down shots, but it didn't really amount to anything close to make it for Pitt to come back in this game. And here's the good thing was that Pitt, they had good bench production. Dante Taylor led the way off the bench with 8 points, 26 points combined by the bench, and they shot well from the free throw line, 12 of 16, 75%. The problem, though, was that, like Dixon had said, they needed to out-rebound Marquette. They needed to keep them off the free throw line, and that's something they didn't do. Marquette outscored them from the bench, 39-26. Devontae Gardner and Jamal Wilson led the way with 27 points combined. Vander Blue, they couldn't stop, just like in the first game. 19 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And they were out-rebounded. Pitt was out-rebounded 31-23. And Marquette shot 57% as a team. That was just unbelievable. went to the free throw line 29 times, converted 22 of them, and Marquette was coming into the game was the worst three-point shooting team in the Big East. Yet, they make 45% of them in this game. And the problem was they had open shots. Pitt's perimeter D has to be better, has to be improved if they want to make a run in the NCAA tournament, because, especially with Vanderblue, he is a good player. He's a junior. He's improved every year. It seems like Pitt has always had problems in the NCAA tournament when they go up against a team who has one of those top NBA players, NBA-type players, that they're shooting the ball like crazy and it's knocking down. Pitt just has trouble winning games when it comes to that because they don't have players that can guard. And in this game, I thought Marquette's guards, Junior Cadogan, Vanderblue, were much quicker than Trey Woodall, James Robinson. They brought in Cam Wright to guard Vanderblue late in the first half, beginning of the second half, and he did an all right job, but I thought he would have been, he's Pitt's best defender, I believe. And Blue was just knocking down shots. I mean, there's not much you can do if you have a hand in his face. I mean, you're defending him. If he knocks down the shot, he knocks down the shot. One of the bad problems, too, was that the front court of Steven Adams and Talib Zanna combined for 8 points. 3 of 9 shooting. Adams 2 of 5, 4 points. Zanna 1 of 4, 4 points. That's not good enough. Adams had a breakout game against Cincinnati. You thought he would have continued to improve in this Marquette game, and he didn't get that many touches. And when I was watching the game, I could tell that Pitt was they were hesitant on going inside to Adams because Marquette has some bigger centers, and that was giving Adams some problems. And Talib Zanna, I mean, there were a few shots that he took that he normally makes, and they were open, and he missed them. They need to produce for this team to win. And that was just troubling because this was a game Pitt would have won. They would have been the team to beat in the Big East. But since they lost, now they are tied for 5th with Notre Dame. And they are one game out of being a tie for 8th place. And when it comes to the Big East tournament, a lot of people think the double byes are important. We've seen in the past that sometimes it's not, but for this Pitt team, it might be something of a factor. But Pitt gets a chance, though, to turn things right around quickly because tonight, at the Peterson Event Center, they will be hosting the team that they are tied with in 5th place in the Big East. Both have identical 20-6 overall records and 8-5 Big East records. Notre Dame. And as we know, Pitt has lost 4 in a row to Notre Dame. They've had trouble with them in the past, especially Notre Dame's burn offense. They haven't gone to that much this year. But Lamar Patterson was saying, we have poised guys, and we're going to be ready for them if they try to do that. And believe me, I remember Pitt playing Notre Dame a couple years ago in the Big East tournament. The burn offense killed them. Killed them last year. I have a feeling they're going to go to it, and Pitt just better be ready because this is going to be, I think, a low-scoring game, tough defensive battle, and I think the biggest matchup, one-on-one matchup, is going to be Steven Adams and Jack Coley. Jack Coley's a big guy, one of the best offensive rebounders in Division I. This will be a huge stepping stone for Adams. Like I always was pointing to this matchup at the beginning of the year because this would be a tough test for Adams, and I think this will really show where he's at right now. And if he has a huge game, I think this is going to be great for his psyche, great for his confidence. If he has a poor game, yeah, it's going to be bad. But Pitt needs to win this game to solidify themselves as a lock for the NCAA tournament and as one of the upper echelon Big East teams. I expect Pitt to win. They're favored to win by 10.5. I don't think it's going to be that much. I think this is going to be a close one-possession, two-possession game. And I think that Pitt's ability to... See, I would have said to defend. I just think Marquette was a bad matchup. This Notre Dame game, I think they are a good matchup for Pitt. The only problem is they have a lot of three-point shooters. perimeter D is going to be huge. I think Pitt's going to find a way to figure their perimeter D out. Notre Dame's not going to hit that many threes, and I think Pitt's just going to get enough baskets. The bench is going to produce, and for one guy to have a coming out party, Steven Adams, but off the bench, I'm going to say J.J. Moore. He really hasn't had a huge breakout game that I know he's capable of. I think he will have that tonight at the Peterson Event Center against Notre Dame. And now the question becomes, when the rankings come out in a few hours, where will Pitt fall? They were 16 going into the Marquette game. I think Pitt will stay in the top 25 for sure. I'm going to say 21-22. Notre Dame might fall out because of the 17-point drubbing at Providence, but regardless, both these teams will make the tournament, and it's going to be a good fun game tonight at the Pete. And now switching to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are now back on a hot streak. It did not start off that way, though. Last Sunday night, Penguins hosted the Devils. Thomas Vokoun was starting, and in this game, New Jersey dictated the pace. The Penguins didn't really amount to much on offense. They had a goal early in the third period, but other than that, Johan Hedberg did an outstanding job blanking the Pens. New Jersey won 3-1. And like I said, it was all about New Jersey playing at their pace. Once you're down by 2 goals to the Devils, it's kind of hard to come back. The Penguins saw that. The Devils definitely have the best 1-2 goalie combination in the NHL with Brodeur and Hedberg, and I didn't think they were going to be this good this year. With the shortened season, they made the Cup last year. I thought that was just a fluke, but they're proving to still be a good quality team, even though they lost Zach Parise. And the Penguins once again struggling at home. But last Wednesday, they hosted the Ottawa Senators, who were tied with them at this point, both with 16 points in the Eastern Conference. And the Penguins played a great game. Paul Martin, on the other hand, 3 penalties in the game, but the Penguins were able to come back because they were down 2-1, middle of the second period, and Neal scores a power play goal, and in the third period, Neal gets another one, and Crosby gets another one. The Penguins go on to win 4-2. Fleury was in net, and aside from the second period, which the Penguins seem to be having a lot of problems with, they're being outscored a ton in the second period. They were able to withstand Ottawa. Fleury did a great job in net, and the power play, 1 for 3, but they're going to take that any game, because this Penguins team is pretty much built with special teams. Their power plays near the top, penalty kills in the top half of the league. And something to note is that the Penguins, when scoring first, up to this point, were 7-3. Obviously, they improved that to 8-3. And Dupuis was the first one to get the goal, and his goal scoring has improved tremendously the past 2 years. And something to note, 2 things to note that were interesting in this game. Well, before the game started, the Penguins traded Erik Tengretti, who they gave him multiple chances, could not produce. He was traded to the Winnipeg Jets for a 7th-round draft pick. He would later on go to say that he wasn't given a chance. Well, guess what? 45 games, 1 goal, 4 assists. That's just not cutting it. They wanted him to be a top 6 winger. He had a big body. Could have been like a Ryan Malone type, but he just couldn't get anything done. So they decided to part ways with him. And in this game, in the third period, there was an interesting sequence where Matt Cooke hit Erik Karlsson, the great young defenseman from Ottawa who won the Norris Trophy last year. He pushed him up against the boards, and his skate hit the Achilles of Erik Karlsson and cut him to the point where Karlsson had to leave the game, and he had to be actually treated at the hospital. He had to have surgery, and he will be out now 3 to 4 months. And later on in the game, Chris Neal went up to Cooke, started punching him. The Ottawa team did not like what they saw. And later on in the week, the Ottawa general manager and the coach said, Cooke does not deserve to be in the NHL. This type of player. The NHL is a league of elite players, and Cooke is not one of them. I understand Ottawa's mad. Karlsson's probably one of their best players. And I know a lot of Penguins players would be mad if this were to happen to Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. But if you look at the play, and the NHL said there was nothing wrong. Cooke was not fined. He was not suspended. It was an accident. It was a clean hit. And believe it or not, these types of plays happen more often than you think in the NHL. And obviously, Cooke's past is one of the reasons why a lot of people from Ottawa are saying, oh, he did it on purpose. Just because he's had that reputation. But Cooke has changed over the last few years. And there is no way that he did this on purpose. There was no malicious intent. It was just an accident. A freak play. So, going into there, getting a home win was great for the crowd, because the Penguins surely needed it. They end up going to Winnipeg, where they've not had success since Winnipeg came back last year in the league. And Fleury got the start once again in net. And Bo Bennett, recently called up, was making his NHL debut, the 21-year-old. And it's believed to think that he will be on the second line with Malkin and Neal. But Cooke produced. He was the first in the Ottawa game, first left winger on the Malkin-Neal line to get a point this year. He got an assist. So they decided to go with Cooke again and have Bennett on the third line with Kennedy and Sutter. Sorry, his name escaped me. And in this game, the surprising Craig Adams got the first goal. And like we said, the Penguins are 8-3 now up to this point when scoring first. Nothing really happened in the second period, which was good for the Penguins because they've been outscored tremendously in the second period. And in the third period, James Neal, a 5-on-3 power play goal. And Winnipeg had a goal late with about 2 minutes remaining. And they were pushing Fleury at the end when they had the extra man in. But Adams was able to get the empty net goal, his second of the game. He's not a scorer. And the Penguins win the game 3-1. Fleury, another tremendous job in the net. And now we go to yesterday's game. Hockey Day in America. The Penguins in Buffalo. And Buffalo, a really bad start to this year, 6-8-1. They get the goal first, 35 seconds in, Pascal Dupuis. And the one thing to note is that the Penguins have scored first in every road game this year, which is quite amazing. And like we said, their previous record, scoring first, they're tough to beat. And just about a minute later, Sidney Crosby gets a power play goal. The Penguins go up early, 2-0. But the Buffalo Sabres get a goal late in the first period, and they were the only team to score in the second period. So at this point, it was 2-2. And then early in the third period, Steve Ott gets a goal. They go up 3-2. And that was something the Penguins I've seen in a couple games where they've scored early on in the first period, and they don't score it all the rest of the game. But this game was different because midway through the third period, Pascal Dupuis on a nice one-timer gets his second of the game, ties the game at 3, and then with about 2.5 minutes left in the game, Paul Martin, of all people, shooting it from the blue line, gets it in, nice assist by Crosby. The Penguins hold on after a huge back-and-forth shooting affair at the end. Ryan Miller making saves for Buffalo, Fleury making saves for the Penguins. Fleury just made that many more saves to give the Penguins a 4-3 win. They are now number 1 in the Eastern Conference with 22 points, and they are now back on to a 3-game winning streak with 3 games coming up now at the Consol Energy Center against Philadelphia, against Florida, and against Tampa Bay. And in this game, Pascal Dupuis, 2 goals, 1 assist. Chris Kunitz, 3 assists. Sidney Crosby, a goal and 2 assists. This was a huge game for those three players. Like I said, Dupuis, he has a goal-scoring touch now. He now has 7 goals. 25 last year. He could get 20 again this year in a shortened season. Chris Kunitz, 3 assists. He's proving to be one of the top forwards in the NHL. And right now with the scoring race, Sidney Crosby is now second, only 1 point behind Thomas Vanek. Crosby has 7 goals, 17 assists. And then Chris Kunitz, right there in the top 10. 6 goals, 12 assists with 18 points. And now I just want to talk a little bit now about Beau Bennett, because this guy drafted 2 years ago. They envision him being one of the top 6 players. That meaning he'd be on either line 1 or line 2. And a lot of people are wondering, where will he be? They want to ease him in to the game, obviously putting him on the third line with Sutter and Kennedy. And I don't know if it's going to work with Malkin and Neal. They're saying I have a feeling they're going to end up having to trade for a winger, because I'm not sure if Beau Bennett is ready at this point. I think he is a good young skater. He has shown time and time again in Wilkes-Barre he has the ability to score. It's just a matter of he's a fast skater. It's just, can he keep up with the likes of Malkin and Neal? And some people are saying, why don't you put him on line 1 with Crosby? Well, guess what? The Crosby, Dupuis, and Kunitz line has proved over the years that they are able to play well together. And last year, Kunitz played well with Malkin and Neal. So people are saying, why don't you move Kunitz down? That may be all good and well, but guess what? You don't want to screw up a line that's playing well. You just don't want to mess with that chemistry. But I think Bennett's going to get it together. I think once he is put with Malkin and Neal, I think he will score goals. And that's something that they have not experienced. The left winger has not scored a goal yet on the line with Malkin and Neal. And also, just to touch up a bit on Evgeny Malkin, 3 goals in 16 games. That is just not cutting it. Granted, he is in the top 15 in scoring, but that's because he has 14 assists, and he is setting up. But 3 goals, and 2 of the 3 goals have come on the power play. So he has only scored 1 5-on-5 goal. That simply is not good enough for the MVP last year and the leader in scoring. And it just goes to show you that the Penguins are still winning when he's not producing. So once he starts producing at his level, then the Penguins should be unstoppable. It's not good enough. I'm not saying that he's playing bad. It's just he needs to score a lot more. And I read in the paper today that his shooting percentage, 6.4%, it's about like 334th in the league. That is abysmal. He is a MVP. He is a superstar player. He's in the top 5 in the NHL. He needs to start scoring more. And he had that great